Thank you so much for tuning in to Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood.
Well, welcome back to Mom Jeans, episode 25, quarter of 100 episodes. So thank you for listening along that whole time. Today we have myself, Leah, Lisa, and Danielle, and we're going to talk about our baby's sleep experiences. Good, bad, indifferent, all of it in between. Every baby is very different, has a very different sleep journey. None of this is medical advice. This is just us speaking from our personal experiences. So, as always, we will start off with our high-low for the week. And Lisa, why don't you kick us off?
All right. So we talked last week about working on potty training with Hannah and telling her that she can't move up to primary until she really gets on it. And she has been doing so great. We've had a couple of accidents here and there, but nothing near like what's been happening. Like we have been really working hard on, trying to make sure that we set like time intervals as well. So like every hour to hour and a half, we make her sit on the potty for 30 seconds. She loves Siri. So we set Siri and we say, hey, Siri, set a timer for 30 seconds. And she'll sit on the potty until it goes off. But usually she goes right away when we do that, which is great. And then sometimes she'll yell out like, I'm going potty, which is so great. So that's been great. And they've even let her go up into primary a couple of days this week already. And they're like, she's a different kid. Like she's excited. She's feeling like she belongs and she's being challenged and she's just getting really bored with the little kids. So as soon as we can really feel like we're good with the potty training, we're going to move her up, which is awesome. We're super excited for that. So that's definitely a high for us. Lows, it's been pretty good. Aubrey, yesterday and today, her face broke out really badly again, and that hasn't happened for like 2 months. And we were talking with her teacher today, and her teacher's like, I really think it's the raspberries you guys have been giving her. Like, stop giving her raspberries. So I thought that was interesting. So they said that because I had raspberries in her lunch today, and she broke out way worse than she was even in this morning. And they said they wiped her face down just with like a wet towel. And by the time I went to pick her up, she looked great. So that was good. So I don't know what's going on there. I'm really hoping that it's something as easy as that. But I think the hardest part is just not knowing what it is. So that's been a little bit tough, but she's still chipper and doesn't bother her. She doesn't scratch at it. It's no big deal. It just bothers me that it looks like it's painful to her. So yeah, so nice and simple. That's what's going on here.
I wonder what's in the raspberries that causes that.
When I was talking to her teacher, she was like, it might just be the acidity in it. And that's a good point, because we gave her spaghetti tonight, or pasta with red sauce, and she broke out all over again on her face. And so we're thinking it's the acid. So we just kind of need to back off of that for a little bit. She loves fruit though. So she's like, houses it. So we just have to kind of take it away and go, maybe this is our time to really get better about vegetables, because we are not good about vegetables around here. We're great at fruit. So yeah. So yeah, that's a good point.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danielle, what about you?
Well, I have a lot of highs this week. I will say, because Weston's been in his boot because of his leg, but they told me to keep it in for 3 weeks, and I kept it on for 4 days because he was very whiny and fussy with it. And he literally would come over and like want me to take it off, like put my hand on his boot and like, please take it off. And then he would walk on it with a limp. But the last 2 days, he's not been limping around. He's like running as fast as ever, climbing everything. I know I sent y'all a picture. We have a high table, like dining room table, and he climbed on the chair on the table. So yeah, back to like giving me heart attacks, climbing everything. So, but I'm happy that he's feeling a lot better. Today he said a couple new words, which I was excited. Ryan brought him into me after he woke up, after he changed his diaper and stuff, because I was getting ready, and he said, "Hi, Mama." And I was like, "Wait, did you hear that?" And Ryan's like, "Yeah, I heard that." So I thought that was cool. And then we did meal prepping and we had some quiche for breakfast. And I was like, "Do you want quiche?" And he's like, "Quiche?" So he's got the cheese and the quiche, like words that sound like that down pretty well. And he told Ryan bye. He waved and said like what sounded like bye. Again, it's not like clear as day, but it's been really cool.
You know what he's
and then
saying,
he
though.
loves, yeah, he loves big trucks too. And I was like, I was like, "Do you see the big tires?" And because we saw one on the street, and he's like, I swear it sounded like he said big tires, but again, not fully as clear as that. But he is trying to say words that I'm saying, and like it's really cool because we have like a lot of lookbooks, and he's like understanding. I'm like, "Where's this?" And he's like pointing at all the things, and so I feel like he's getting a lot of vocabulary, maybe not like verbally, but he like knows what a lot of things mean, which has been really cool to watch. But because I feel like this cognitive leap is happening, sleep regression is starting to happen a little bit too. And so that's where my low comes in a little bit, because he is a great sleeper, has always been a great sleeper. And lately, I can tell he's getting a little separation anxiety when I put him down for his nap, because usually I'd lay him down for his nap. I could even cover him with a blanket, give him a stuffed animal, and he would just lay there and either like talk to himself to sleep or just go to sleep. And now he's been crying when I lay him down. At least today, he cried for like 2 minutes max. And I'm not saying like a wailing, it's more like a whining. But he's definitely really sad that I leave. So that's been really hard. And he's been waking up in the middle of the night too. So like last night I went to go, or it was like 1 o'clock, and he was again that whining. There's a difference of when I'll go instantly in his room, and that's if he's like crying hard, the where he can't catch a breath kind of cry, or the I'm gonna cry like and then see if anyone comes. So I like wait, and I was like, I'm gonna give him 5 minutes, and then it was about 5 minutes. So I got up, and as soon as I got up and like started walking there, he stopped. He laid down and went back to sleep. So that's been not so fun, but part of the job. So I just like when he gets good sleep. And I think the last thing, sorry, that was really long winded, but the last thing is I'm feeling a lot better. I know I've been like feeling really last couple weeks, like really tired and really overwhelmed. And I just feel like this week's been, I've just felt like I've had more energy and just more focused and just like in a better mood mentally and physically. So that's a win. I'm just glad that I'm feeling back to normal. So yeah.
Nice.
Glad you're feeling better, Danielle.
Thank you.
So, well, I definitely can relate to the separation anxiety. Like Wes was so easy to put down to bed. You just change his diaper and put him in his crib, and that would be it. And the last couple weeks, he's been crying when I put him down for a nap and crying when I put him to bed. And it doesn't last more than 30 seconds. But same thing. I think that's part of the separation anxiety and that cognitive leap. Wes isn't talking nearly as much, but he understands everything. So my high this week was that the last couple of weeks professionally have been really, really hard. Just longer days, work volume has increased tremendously. Lots of changes going on within my job and within the organization. But today we got news that we got a profit share, so we'll get some extra money on our paycheck on Friday. So super. Let's
go.
Yeah, that was a great way to start the day. It was a total surprise to everyone. I was on the call with one of my coworkers who was crying because she was having such a bad day. And I was like, "Hey, we just got this email." And she's like, "What? No way." And I was like, "Yeah." So we got to end our call on a really high note. And then low, it's just been, Wes has had a really hard time transitioning back to school from the 3 weeks that we weren't there. And drop-offs have been really hard. And then after school has just been so tough. Just meltdowns, and he doesn't take good naps at school. He's also been like crazy hungry this past week. I can't, he just won't stop eating, like literally nonstop. And so I have to like show up to school to pick him up with snacks in my hand. And then we have to go to the grocery store and get more snacks for him to eat before we go home, and get more snacks before we eat dinner. And so, it's just been there's been a lot of high emotions in the house. It's just been a little extra tiring, but, he'll get there. I think this morning drop off was better than yesterday, and yesterday was better than the day before. So I think it's good as long as he's in his routine, but once his routine kind of gets disrupted for an extended period of time, he has a hard time getting back into it. So that's just been a little bummer on my mama heart, because it makes it hard to go to work immediately after that, and I end up walking out of school crying myself after drop off. So, but we'll get there. It'll get better. It'll be fine, and then we'll go on Thanksgiving break, and then we'll go through it again, and then it'll be Christmas break, and then we'll go through it again, and then it'll be spring break, and we'll go through it again. And so, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So if that concludes our high lows, I think we should, we've already kind of started talking a little bit about sleep, but let's dive in. I'm actually really excited because I don't know, Danielle, everything you did. Lisa, I don't know everything you did. And it's so different for everyone. So I'm excited to kind of hear from you guys. Did you guys do any sort of sleep training with your little ones?
I hate to admit this. I don't exactly know what sleep training is. So can you, I don't really know what it is.
Oh, that's fine. And there's different ways of it being explained as sleep training, sleep hygiene. It's just essentially the idea of getting your child on a schedule and in a routine.
Okay.
There's a lot of science and studies that back that young children thrive in routine. And so it's the practice of putting that into place. I don't think it's anything more complicated than that. Danielle, do you have anything to add?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I feel like when people hear sleep training, though, they think the worst, like that's the cry it out method, which that is one method of sleep training, but there's so many methods out there. But yeah, and then everything that you said, I agree with.
Yeah, so sleep training, the term, is controversial. That's why you will also hear the term sleep hygiene instead, because it's a little less, I don't know, less controversial, less aggressive.
Okay.
But there's many different methods, as Danielle said. And I think there's a stigma and a lot of immediate association between sleep training and cry it out and abandoning your child and those types of things. Whereas some of these major programs that are put into place, we'll probably talk about taking care of babies, moms on call, things of that sort. Those are, they focus on teaching your child independence in ways to soothe themselves, to get to sleep, to develop that sleep hygiene.
Okay.
But again, it's what works for everybody. This is a judgment-free zone. So if anybody is listening and you are for or against sleep training or sleep hygiene, whatever you want to call it, we support you.
Definitely.
Yes, we just had to do what was best for us, whatever that method may have been, or no method.
We didn't do sleep training in the sense of like naps on schedule. So we did cues for naps. So if we saw the yawning and the, rubbing the eyes, then we would put them down for naps. But we never did like scheduled times for naps, but we did schedule times for sleeping. And both of my kids were pretty much at like 6 o'clock. Like they started to get really cranky if they weren't going down by that point. So we would put them down. We did do cry it out for both of them. Hannah was a 2-day cry it out, and she was great. She did awesome. We were so lucky. We coincided that at the same time as her starting daycare for the first time. And so I think she was just exhausted. And we read a little bit about like that may be a time to do it. So like kind of bombard them with all the changes at once, you know, so that it's not like, oh, she's finally used to daycare, let's bump into you know, sleep training, whatever, doing all that. So we did it all at once with Hannah, and she was not a napper at school either. So she would nap maybe 30 minutes at school. And obviously when you're that young, you're 3 months old, you need sleep. So she was great. She would go down at 6 and then we would have to wake her up at 6:30 to get her ready for school and everything like that. So that was good. And then Aubrey, we same thing with naps. We kind of just take cues from her sleep times, you know, or like when she shows sleepy signs. And then same thing, she wants to go down at 6. So we did cry it out for her at I want to say it was like 3 months, around 3 months. We tried to cry it out. And the first night she cried so much. And I was like, my heart was breaking. And I was like, I can't do this. So the next night I gave up on it and then slowly went back to like, all right, she's going to be all right. She's going to figure this out. So, so that's kind of where we were as far as sleep training goes.
Danielle, what about you guys?
Well, we didn't do like a formal like sleep training until 4 months, but again, like kind of what Lisa said with the cues and things for naps. So I read a book called On Becoming Baby Wise, Giving Your Infant the Gift of Sleep by Gary Enzo and Robert Buckman. I highly recommend that book. I felt like that book was very helpful because being a new mom, I didn't even know what like sleepy cues were. And, you know, being overtired was a thing. And so I did my best. As soon as I saw those sleep cues, I put them down for a nap. Like the book kind of talks about like when the baby wakes up, you feed them, you do the wake window, and then you put them back down for the nap when they start showing those sleep cues. And that's kind of what I constantly did. In the younger stages, like I did, you know, do contact naps, or sometimes I'd lay him down in his bassinet if I needed to do something. But it wasn't until about 4 months, I felt like 3 months, I did start to try to put him down awake, because that's another thing from the book, you know, is trying to do that. And then just kind of staying on a like consistent schedule, which I thought was like very helpful. Wes might be a fluke because at 3 months he started sleeping. I think the first time he slept 7 hours through the night. I laid him down. He didn't wake up until like 7 hours. I woke up and was like, what happened? But he was fine. But 4 months we did, because I added the passies in to kind of help him learn how to soothe, but I was putting the passy back in his mouth. So we had to kind of sleep train with that, like giving him the passy so he could put the passy in his mouth and then put himself back to sleep. It's kind of like the cry it out method. It's called the Ferber Method, where you start with, they cry for 3 minutes. And if they're still crying, you go in and you're like, you're not even in there for like 15 seconds. You're like, hey, you're doing good. Mom's still here. Dad's still here. Love you. And then you're out. And then the time increases, you know, then it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We didn't do but 30 minutes, and then he was asleep. And then we only did it one night. So I'm sorry for those. I feel bad saying that, but we just got really lucky with a really good sleeper. So, yeah.
There's that question of, and this is a question that like sleep training programs will ask, is did you get lucky with a good sleeper, or did you teach a good sleeper?
That's a good question. Ryan definitely believes that it's the book that helped. He's like, because he'll recommend it to people. He was like, my wife read this book and she like, and it has sleep schedules in it too. And I thought was really helpful to look. I didn't follow them exactly, you know, because our schedule might be different, but it was very helpful to see like what a sleep schedule could look like. And yeah, I feel like it did help a lot. And just doing those, and setting a routine and all of that. It talks about that in the book. So you should get that book if you're a new time mom, or even you have I didn't read it until like Weston was 8 weeks. And I felt like it was very eye-opening to like things I should be doing. But I don't know how I would have time to do that if I have another kid. So it might be different next time.
So when I was pregnant, I had 2 friends recommend to me Moms on Call. They said they swore by it. They said it was the way they got their kids to sleep and that it was really effective. And so I bought the book. I just bought the book. I didn't do like any of the paid programs or anything. So it was like a $10 book or whatever. I bought the book the week Wes was born, but like before he was born. And so I kind of glimpsed over it before he was born. And then really kind of started following the sleep schedules that were in there and the routines that were in there from like week 2. And there's an element of cry it out. We never let him cry it out for more than, our number ended up being 9 minutes still to this day. Like he'll never cry for more than 9 minutes. But you know, we did do that, but Wesson got on a schedule, a very consistent schedule right away. And we followed the wake windows that were in there. It was like, okay, when he wakes up from a nap, you feed him, you play, and then he goes back down for another nap. And I found that following the times recommended on that schedule based off of the age, because I followed that book. The first one was like the newborn book, and then there was, it's either like the first 6 months, the second 6 months. I can't remember exactly how they're broken up, but I got the first 2 books. So I followed the first one until it was time to transition to the second one, and I followed the segments. So I know it was like the first 4 weeks you follow this schedule, then from 4 weeks to 8 weeks you follow this schedule, from 8 weeks to 12 weeks you follow this schedule, from 12 weeks to 16 weeks you follow this schedule. And we did that, and it was actually really interesting too, because when we moved on to the second book, Wesson had kind of naturally transitioned himself to following those schedules, less of me modifying his schedules and more of him just doing it on his own. But we followed that, and like you said, like Ryan recommends your book to everyone, Stephen recommends Moms on Call to everyone, because he says the same thing. Like, my wife read this book, we did it from the beginning, and it was great. Moms on Call is very simple, easy read. It's very direct. There's very little fluff. It's all informational, straight to the point, which I appreciate. That's like who I am. I don't need the extra words. So it was very easy for me to navigate, and I appreciate it. But I do still say, like, we got really lucky with a good sleeper. I know, like, we worked on it, but it also wasn't super hard work for us either. So that's where I think there's that balance between, okay, lucky and teaching. I think there's an element of both of that in our situation. We taught him, but we also got lucky because there wasn't much resistance. He likes to sleep unless he's at school. And then he's like got the worst toddler FOMO you've ever seen in your life.
That's what I think. I always said Hannah was, and it's so interesting because Hannah was such an excellent sleeper until she turned 2, and then it flopped, and she sleeps so long at daycare for naps, and they're like, we have to wake her up, and she's the first to go down, the last to wake up, and she is like a zombie when we wake her up. Like, she could keep going. And I'm like, I don't understand, because then at nighttime, she started to become, she's a nightmare right now and has been since she turned 2. It's like she's up a lot, and she comes into our room, and then we have to walk her back to her room, and it's a lot. Like, and you just are like, man, what happened? Like, it's just like a switch overnight just turned on, and she became a different sleeper, and I don't know what happened. And that's why I was like, I wonder if either of those book cover toddlers, because that would be really, I'd be interested to read those and see what they say. I mean, we've tried a lot of things and it doesn't seem to help.
Moms on Call and Taking Care of Babies both have older
Nice
children ones references.
I'll have to look at that. And then, you know what, just to backtrack a minute. So with Aubrey, we thought she had a witching hour, but we came to realize that we were putting her to sleep too late. So we were extending her and getting her to go down at like 7, and she would wail for like 2.5 hours. Like, it was a long time. We kept being like, man, what is this? And she would scream like a banshee. Like, she is the loudest child on the planet, I think. It is so loud. And we were like, we felt terrible because we were like, what's wrong with this child? What is happening? And we were like, oh man, it is just what it is. And then one night we were like, all right, let's just try and put her down. Like, let's see what happens if we put her down at 6. Put her down at 6. She slept through the night. And we were like, all right, we're going to start doing this. And it's like, that's the hardest part, is it's a lot of trial and error. And because Aubrey isn't Hannah and Hannah isn't Aubrey. And so trying to do the things that, we had a checklist with Hannah. If she was crying, we would go through the checklist of, is she hungry? Is she tired? Does she have to poop? And then the last one, hers, we found out she was cold. So if we could get her warm, she usually was great. So then we were like, all right, what's Aubrey's cue? What's her thing? And we just realized it. When she gets tired, you just get her down. Find a way to get her down, because she is just not going to be happy with you if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Wes gets real mad when he's tired too. But we did have a witching hour, but we found out that he was hungry because I was a significant undersupplier, and we didn't know that right away. But our witching hour would last for like some nights 5 hours until we figured out that he was hungry. There was one night that it was from 5 p.m. until 11:30 at night, and there was nothing we could do. And so, yeah, we fought those witching hours for a while. And then when he started daycare, the witching hours came back again. And I think it was that overtired, because he just he's never slept well at daycare. He's had like 1 to 2 good naps at daycare ever. And so I think it was that, and it got to the point where as soon as we would get home from school, I would give him an extra bottle and sit on the couch, and he would fall asleep on the couch for me for like 30 minutes. And then we would still get him back down to bed at the normal time, kind of following our routine. But it was an adjustment period. And that's just it too, Lisa. Like you said, like, Hannah was a great sleeper until she's 2. I have no idea what's in store for us for the future. Like, it's been great so far, but that could change any minute. And I've honestly been somewhat a little fearful because of the last 2 weeks of Weston having like the separation anxiety when he's going to take a nap and when he's going to bed. Cause I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Like, are we, so, but, kind of on that, like, Lisa, you moving bedtime earlier, how I was saying Weston come home from school, we'd add a nap in. Did you guys do any specific types of nighttime routines before bed when they were little, or even now? Do you?
Yes, we start a routine very early. Like, I know you don't have to give a newborn or like early weeks baby a bath. Like, when we started those routines, we still would like just put him in the bath and read a book, even though he probably had no clue what was going on, and like feed him and then lay him down. And we still do that, except feed him now. I mean, he doesn't have the he eats dinner, and then we do a bath and then read in the bedtime. So I do feel like the routine definitely helped.
What about you, Leah?
So Mom's on Call states doing a routine. It's like bath time, read a book, sing a song, change diaper, whatever, go to bed. So postpartum, I had severe postpartum anxiety. I was really OCD and trying to control everything. So I was like really following the book to a T. And so we tried to do bath time in the evenings, and it was a horrible experience for us. It was not something that worked. We tried bath time, I think 4 times before Stephen at night, before Stephen was like, we can't do this. We just can't. Like, Weston was so angry. But if we did bath time earlier in the day, Weston didn't mind. He loved it. He had a great time. So I think it was a combination of being tired, being hungry. I think it was a combination of both of those things. And then throwing him in the bath, he was like, absolutely not. So we really didn't end up having much of a nighttime routine because of that. When he was younger, I would just rock him and feed him and then put him in his crib. And then when he got off the bottles, we do bath time in the evening. So now it's like bath time, brush your teeth, and go to bed. But I know people who do bath time, read a book, sing a song, XYZ, turn the lights on and off 3 times and then you go to bed, whatever. But I wouldn't say that we have a huge nighttime routine that we're committed to. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. So for us, with both of the girls, we always have just done get a bottle, go into the dark room, sit in the recliner, feed them their bottle, and then put them right into the crib and don't interact with them. So that was one thing I had read. Just don't interact if you're in the middle of the night. Like, try not to change the diaper unless you know it's a diaper issue. Just try to do as little as you can. Unfortunately, both of my girls have pretty bad eczema. So the suggestion is to bathe them only twice a week, 3 times a week if necessary. So bath was never an option for us, which is fine. I mean, great for us, less work. But we didn't do books really until we would do books during the day, like just for fun. But we didn't do books with Hannah until she moved out of the crib. And she moved out of the crib really early. So she moved out of the crib at 17 months because she kept climbing out and jumping out. She was a climber young. So that was really hard because everything I read was like, try to keep them in the crib as long as you can. You're going to create a lot of issues if you lose the crib. And we were like, okay, well, I'm not really interested in my kid breaking their leg because they keep jumping out of the crib, right? She's also tall, so she could get up there pretty easily. So we moved her to a mattress on the floor. And when we did that, that's when we started to do books. But then we moved her to her new room when Aubrey was born, and we do 3 books and 2 songs every night. That's her routine. So we do 3 books, turn off the light, 2 songs. And I got in the bed the other night and she's like, okay, mommy, 3 books, 2 songs, right? And I was like, yep, Hannah, that's it. So she knows it. Like, she knows that's her routine. But you know what? We were just talking about that because a lot of what I've been trying to read to try and figure out how to get her a better sleeper was like, you need to have, like, for their age, like an hour of downtime before. And we do not do that. So we need to get a lot better about that. We're also trying to push her bedtime a little bit later because she still goes to bed really early, especially for her age. And we're like, well, maybe that's part of the issue. Well, we've let her stay up until like 8, 9. And they're like, well, if she's too tired, then she gets whatever it's called, cortisol or whatever. It's like pumps her up and then she's awake all night. So it's like, we just haven't found the sweet spot for her. And we've been trying since February. It's been a long time. So it's like, what are you going to do? I'm not really sure. Her nighttime routine is working. Aubrey likes to fall asleep. She's good. She hadn't been the best overnight sleeper. Like, she'd always wake up once and I'd have to go get her a bottle and then she'd be up for a long time. And I realized I was interacting with her too much. So I'd like keep her up instead of just putting her right down after the bottle. So another controversial topic is leaving the bottle in the crib with them. And it's mostly because they don't want them to be like sucking on the bottle because it's bad for their teeth, which Aubrey, as soon as she's done with it, she like chucks it. She plays fetch with herself in the crib. Mind you, she can't crawl yet. So she's like rolls to it. She kicks her legs so that her back like scooches back. It's so funny. But yeah, so that's a controversial thing, but that's the only way we could really get her to go back to sleep without her like wanting to play with us in the middle of the night. So yeah, so right now her nighttime routine is easy. It's just give her a bottle, let her go down. So it's good.
Do you guys use any sort of like comfort items or soothers or anything? Did you use any in the beginning? Do you use any now? How have those evolved over time?
We tried passies with both of the girls and neither of them took to them. And we would try and try and try and they just couldn't. It was like they couldn't understand the concept of them. So Hannah started sucking her thumb at 5 months. She's still sucking her thumb to this day. And everybody I've talked to is like, do not take that thumb away from her. If that is her comfort, you don't want her to be uncomfortable. So you'll see her like in social situations where you know she's really like uneasy and she'll pop her thumb in her mouth. And it's like, I'm not worried about it. The pediatrician's like, what's going to end up happening is some of her classmates are going to start to say, why do you suck your thumb? Like it's unfortunately going to come to that's how she's probably going to make it go away. Because they're like, you can try the bad tasting nail polish, which I remember my parents doing to me because I was a thumb sucker and I can still taste it to this day. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. So Hannah's was sucking her thumb. Aubrey's really funny. So she never took to a pacifier. She hasn't taken to her thumb. But I don't know how I learned this, but at about 7 months, I like put a burp towel in her crib with her, and it made her fall asleep so much faster than it ever did. It was like a soother to her, like a little blankie. And especially if you can get like a textured one, then she's really into it. But it's really cute because she'll like put it over her face and then she'll start kicking her legs and like moving her arms like she's suffocating herself. So you're like, oh my gosh. And then she'll take it off like she's playing peekaboo with herself and she'll just start giggling in her crib. And you're like, this is the cutest little thing you've ever seen. And they just said at schools that if they don't have a towel with her, that she does it with a basket that she found. And she'll put this basket over her head and she'll just start like moving around like she's like getting suffocated. She's just laughing to herself in the corner.
Funny.
So that's her soother. Her soother is it's so nice to have that. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like I will tell you, and this is something I was going to plug earlier. I do not think I would have been able to sleep as well. Not that I sleep well, but as comfortable without the Nanit. The Nanit has been my game changer. With Hannah, I had the Nanit, the breathing strip on her for a year. And then the year subscription was up and we would have had to pay. And I was like, those first 2 nights without the breathing strip, I was a wreck. I kept going into her room. Brandon's like, leave her alone. She's fine. She's fine. And then with Aubrey, I took it off probably closer to, I would say I took it off like right when she got out of the sleep sack. So probably around 6 months. And she's like, I'll put it on. I was telling Leah, I put it on for her when I give her like an allergen and I'm worried she's going to have like anaphylaxis. So that's the only time I use the breathing strip now. But yeah, the Nanit has, oh man, thank you, Nanit. It's been amazing. So onwards. How about you guys with soothers?
A sound machine. We always have that on, but he can fall asleep without it too. But I do feel like he wakes up if it's not on. But luckily I have the hatch. So if Ryan forgets to cut it on, I can use my phone and like turn it on with my phone, which is nice. But before we did, I tried a couple sleep sacks and, I did try the Dreamland. I was a little worried about it. I know that you really liked it, and it was really nice. But I ended up doing what was called Zipadee, which it looks like a squirrel suit. So it's like a star, zips up, and so I think that was helpful because what worried me about the Dreamland is when he started rolling over. He had a hard time getting back over to his back. So I felt like the Zipadee he could move better in that. But then when I needed him to learn how to put his own pacifier in his mouth, I had to take him out of the sleep sack because he couldn't grab it. So that was the only downfall because there's his hands are inside of the sleep sack. And then so he from then on out used the passy until after his birthday. We weaned him from that, which again, it was like kind of the sleep training all over again, but it didn't last for about 10 minutes. and then he was fine and then never needed it again. Though he did pull it out of a baby's mouth before. We were out at a play cafe and popped it in his own mouth. I'm like, oh my gosh. Because he was like, oh, I know what this is. Oh, and the last thing, we also use the Ollie sleep sack for a swaddle. Like I do like the swaddles, but he is such a mover and he would kick out of any swaddle we would swaddle him in. And I felt like the Ollie sleep sack, it's the Velcro one, but it's just so simple. It's like you can do arms out or arms in, and it was just the easiest one I felt like that we had. And we also had blackout curtains because in Montana in the summertime, it doesn't get dark until 11 p.m. sometimes. Like it's really bright. And so we did have the blackout curtains. You can get them on Amazon. I bought like the Sleep Out, like the brand I saw on Instagram, but they have really good like cheaper brands on Amazon too, which we still use because the sun comes right into where our nursery is. So yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of blackout curtains long before I even had a child. I remember in college, I took trash bags and hung them over my window and then put curtains over them because blackout curtains either didn't exist at that time or I didn't know about them. But I would always make my room super dark. And so we have blackout curtains all around our entire house. But good call out there. We definitely have blackout curtains in Weston's room and have from the very beginning. We've got the sound machine. But like Aubrey and Hannah, Weston would not do a pacifier after like a month old, I don't think it was. He discovered his fingers, so his thing is his pointer and middle finger. He sucks on both of those when he's tired or upset. So similarly, you'll probably see him out in public and he will be doing that as well, but it chills him right down. So it's like, all right, we'll start your fund for braces right now. That's fine. So we did that. The swaddles, Weston is an alligator, so he ripped out of the swaddles very, very, very early on. We introduced the Dreamland sleep sack when he was 2 months old, and the first night that we did it, he slept in 11 hours straight. And we kept him in that for a while. Danielle, I understand why once he started to roll, you took Weston out of it. We kept Weston in it, and I think all we did was create a monster and made him stronger, because then he could flip with it on like that was no big deal. I saw one of my friends on Instagram actually, once her daughter started to roll, they flipped the Dreamland the other way so that it, when she was sleeping on her belly, it was like a weighted blanket on her back, which I thought was super interesting. We never ended up trying that. We just eventually took him out of the weighted sleep sack. I was very nervous the first night that we did, but it was a result of him puking and having diarrhea all over the sleep sacks, and so there were no other options, and he had to sleep without it, and he was fine. We never went back from there. He doesn't sleep with a blanket. He doesn't sleep with anything in his crib. They say at school that he will go grab the weighted blanket that they have in the classroom and he'll grab that and sleep with it, which I think is really funny. But he doesn't sleep with anything in his crib now. You know, we were talking about, Lisa, you were talking about how like feeding the girls before bed, and I was wondering when you guys dropped the middle of the night feeds, and did you guys feed to sleep? Because I know feeding to sleep can also be controversial.
Yeah, I would try to feed, and if I saw he was starting to doze, then I would lay him down because that's what the book recommended, the Baby Wise book that I read. So I would do that. And I'm not sure when I dropped the middle of the night feed. It was probably a little after 3 or 4 months. Whenever I did, I didn't wake up to pump, and therefore that's when my supply started to drop.
Yeah, Hannah was at 12 weeks. She started sleeping through the night completely and didn't wake up. And Aubrey still to this day, like sometimes I have to still feed her in the middle of the night because she will get up and start crying, and I just always go right for the bottle because she hadn't been eating very well during the day. And then I was like, well, and she's really small for her age. So I'm like, it's not going to hurt to give her more. And she's all of a sudden in the last week started to really uptake her intake, but she's, school knocks her out pretty well, which is nice. Like she gets really tired during the night and will sleep 12, 13 hours right now, which is great. But on a rare occasion, we'll still give her a bottle in the middle of the night. I definitely have gotten, I say, like with Hannah, I followed so many different things, like so many different apps of like things you should do to keep your child like on par and, on pace, which Hannah still wasn't ever on pace. But I felt like I did a lot more for her. Whereas Aubrey, I feel like I've just kind of been like, she'll be fine, And so I kind of do things that probably aren't setting her up for success. But yeah, so we still feed her occasionally in the middle of the night.
I hated dropping that middle of the night feed. I loved the middle of the night feed, and I fed to sleep at night, and I did that until he went off the bottles, which was a year. But I loved that time so much. Like it was so peaceful and magical, and like Weston was so snuggly and sweet, and it was just like, man, I loved it. I miss it. I still miss it. I'm still like, Steven, can I give him a bottle? Like it was just so special, and it was my favorite. And Steven was so sweet because he always offered to do it, like because Weston was, I pumped exclusively. So Steven could, but I was like, no, I will get up in the middle of the night and I will do it. Like I love it. And Steven would take sleep over that, so it was fine. It worked out. But
that's exact same with Brandon. Like he won't wake up from her crying. So I'm like, well, and this is on me anyway. But I actually have a note that she fed off of me until 5.5 months, and then just one day woke up and was like, no thanks, I just want a bottle. Which is funny because like getting her to take a bottle initially when she went to daycare for the first time was impossible. She wouldn't take a bottle. It was awful. I was miserable, like feeling so bad she wouldn't eat. But I have a note that in the middle of the night, especially, like I couldn't smile at her while she was eating because she would stop and just start smiling at me. And so it would distract her. I know. And I can still picture it in my head where she would just get that like really slow Grinch smile where she would just slowly like get happier and happier. And I was like, this is the cutest thing ever. So yeah, that is hard. That's a hard one to lose for sure.
Yeah, I still hold on to that. I'm like, I would go back to that any day. I loved it. The last bottle that I gave him the last night, it was when we were on our trip in California, and I was just like, oh, this sucks.
It's hard.
So we've talked a lot about like nighttime sleep, but I was kind of curious too. Do your kids, do they do on the go naps? Like Wes will still, he's like narcoleptic when he gets in his car seat. And when he was really little, when we were still working on getting that routine, he would do his first 2 naps every day in his crib. But then his third nap of the day either was a contact nap or a nap in the stroller. So just kind of wondering what your guys' experiences were like with naps, and if your kid gets a 5-minute nap in the car, are they up for 5 extra hours? Like, do power naps happen to you guys, and what has that been like?
Yeah, power naps are the worst. If Weston naps, it's like he doesn't want to nap later. Like if I'm out and about close to his nap time, I'm like looking at him because I have the mirror so I can see him in the mirror, and I'm like, where's your nose? Where's your eyes? Where's your belly button? Like just trying to keep him awake, because if he goes to sleep, we're done. So, but yeah, he will fall asleep in the car seat, but not like, if he's pretty awake, he'll stay awake. But if he's close to nap time or we did a lot in the morning, it's sometimes hard to keep him up. For contact naps, easier when he was like a newborn, but as he kind of got like older, I'm like, oh, he's gonna nap on me. And Ryan's like, you're gonna regret it because he'll wake up screaming, like I don't know if he's uncomfortable or what, and he gets all sweaty and I'm sweaty. So it's like he always did better in his bed than he did contact naps, which made me sad. Like we did all the contact naps like the first several weeks, and then as he got a little older and we were doing like more of this sleep schedule, and he was sleeping through the night and stuff, it's just like I had to put him down for a nap or yeah, he wasn't about it. And he's still, if we fly, I know we've talked about this, he won't nap on me. It's very hard to put him down for contact naps. I see people like with their babies just all cuddled up and going to sleep. Weston is like so independent, so wants to do his own thing and on the move. So it's just very hard to get him to do contact naps now, anyways.
Hannah was a good out and about napper for sure. I have a video of her. And she would have been about 4 months, and we were in San Diego, and she was sleeping in a crowded bar with everybody screaming around her, and she just was out, and it was awesome. She was a great napper on the go anywhere. Aubrey, not so much. She's not very good at that. She's a big FOMO baby. She definitely wants to see what's going on and wants to be a part of everything. And like I said, it's tough because she's so happy until she's not. And then you're like, oh boy, get her out of here. She's going to start screaming and it's going to be really bad for everybody. So she's not quite as on the go, which is kind of interesting because we have to be on the go a lot more with her because of all the activities we get Hannah into. So it's weird that she's the one that's that way, but that is what it is. But I agree, it's so hit or miss with the naps in the car. So for a while I would try and keep Hannah awake. And, with the rear facing seat too, it's hard to like keep her engaged. Like if she's going out, she's going out. Like she's just going to go to sleep and I can't really control it. For the most part now, because she's so tired from not sleeping at night, we can still get her to go down when we get home. And Aubrey's hit or miss on it for sure. But yeah, I definitely in the beginning, like if Hannah went down in the car, she would not go to nap in the crib. So that was really tough. But we have, and we also like, I remember having Hannah in swings when we would have people come visit and we would be playing cards, we would put her on the table in a swing with us and she would sleep through us playing cards and doing all that, which was nice.
So we don't have a rear facing mirror. We bought one and tried to put it on and it didn't work. And it was just this like whole frustrating catastrophe. And so I'm committed to still finding one and figuring out how to make it work. But what my thing has become is that, again, Danielle, like I try and also keep Wes engaged. I'm like, hey, can you say this? Oh, do you see the train? Do you see the truck? Like, I'm like, where are your shoes? So I talk to him, but because I can't see him, what I'll do is when I'm at a stoplight, I'll take my phone and I'll put it on selfie mode and turn around to see if he's awake or asleep.
Look at that.
And so I have like 50 of these pictures, and I made a baby book for his first year. So like this is one when he's awake. I made a baby book for his first year, and there's going to be a whole section in his baby book for his second year of these pictures that we take when we're trying to figure out if he's awake or asleep in the car. But I'm like so strategic with when I'm going to be going somewhere around. Like I won't go somewhere when it's getting that close to his nap time, because it's just like he will zonk out and then he'll be like, let's go, Mom. It's time to party. Because he sleeps really well in the car. And then he slept really well in the stroller when he was little. He doesn't anymore. But he never slept in chairs or swings or anything like that. Just wasn't his thing. So, but kind of sleeping apparatuses. When did you guys transfer from the bassinet to the crib?
I did. It was 6 months. So we waited. I know they say like wait 6 months. I don't know who's they, the Sleep Association for Babies. I don't know what it's actually called. But those people said 6 months, better to wait till 12. I was not waiting for 12 months. I was like, all right, you're out of here. But no, I was actually kind of really sad. I felt like he was sleeping really good, because we would have to put him down, sneak out, let him fall asleep, then sneak back in, and then get into bed. And then I felt like we were waking him up a lot. And so when he did move to his crib, into his own room, he slept awesome. I did not, but still, like, even on his monitor, if he like breathes different or if he moves, I wake right up. I know it's a mom thing, like some connection that we have with our babies. I'm sure that's why we wake up and the men don't. But it's just like, yeah, he still wakes me up on the monitor, and even if he's going, and then he rolls over. But no, it was 6 months.
So Hannah, I have a note that we moved her to her room at 2 months old. I want to say I napped her in her crib for about a week before that, and then we moved her full time to her crib because she was such a noisy sleeper, and I couldn't sleep, and it helped a ton to get her into the crib where I had the Nanit, where I felt better anyways, because I was like, all right, if she's gonna have SIDS, like, I won't know with her sleeping right next to me. I would rather put her on the breathing monitor so then if something were to happen, I would know. And it also, like I said, the noise level was really helped a ton. And then Aubrey, I did 2.5 months, and I will tell you what. So I read a bunch about the same thing, Danielle, like 12 months, do it for 12 months, do it for 6 months. And I was fully prepared to do it for 6 months. And then I started feeling like really guilty, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't move her. And I talked to a girlfriend of mine, and she was like, I asked her, I was like, hey, when did you move your daughter to her crib? And she's like, 2 weeks. I couldn't do it. I couldn't have her in our room. And I was like, that's all I needed to hear was like, it's okay. It's okay to move them, and you're not a bad parent, and you're not loving enough by keeping them right next to you all night long. So yeah, so that helped a lot.
I just talked to a girl yesterday, or a lady, not a girl, but she has 3 kids, and she said that none of her kids have slept in their room, that she puts them right into their nursery day one, and she's like, that's what worked for them, and and they're great sleepers, and so that's awesome. Yeah, you got to do what's best for you, 100%.
So Weston went in his crib when he was 2 weeks old. Part of that was that Lisa shared that exact story with me, that her friend told her that she put her kid in the crib at 2 weeks old. The other element of that was we were living in this condo at the time that had horrible HVAC system, and so our bedroom in the wintertime would not get any warmer than 58 degrees. And so we felt like it was not a safe sleeping environment for Wes. And so actually the first 2 weeks, I think the first night we slept in our bedroom, and then we realized how cold it was in there. And we moved out into the living room as a family and had Weston in his bassinet. I slept on the couch, and then Steven slept on we had a sofa bed in Weston's room, and we pulled the mattress and put it in the living room. So we slept in the living room as a family. And then it got to the point where we're like, can't do it. Weston's room was really well temperature controlled. It was perfect in there for him. We had that sofa bed in there, so we could sleep on the sofa in his room if we wanted to or felt like we needed to, which maybe happened once or twice. But yeah, we put him in his crib in his room by himself at 2 weeks old, and he slept through the night by 2. Well, actually, I was just looking at this, and it said that, well, yeah, he slept through the night for 11 hours by the time he was 2 months, but yeah, he fell asleep on his own pretty quickly, and I got a lot of judgment from some people close to me for doing that. But would I change it? Absolutely not. I was relieved to hear that somebody else had done it, like Lisa shared, and we simply could not keep him in a room that was 58 degrees.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. Like, it's funny because I talked to my cousin and my cousin's wife, their sister-in-laws, but my cousin's wife was like, she kept her youngest in her room for far longer, and she's like, people are judging me for keeping her in here for too long. And I was like, isn't that ridiculous? Like, I'm getting judged for going too short. You're getting judged for going too long. And then my other cousin who lives in Hawaii, it's so hot in their house because they don't have air conditioning. And we were just talking about it. And she was like, do you guys sleep with the door closed to the kids' rooms? And I was like, yeah, we do. She's like, we can't because we have like an air conditioning unit now in the middle of the house, like apartment, so that or condo, whatever it is, that can go to her room. But otherwise it's like 86 degrees in her room. And I'm like, isn't that crazy? Like, you just, got to do what you got to do for yourself and what works for you.
Well, and then I became the queen of reading what should you dress your kid into sleep based off of the temperature. Oh my God. That just drove me crazy. I was looking at that every week based off of the temperature fluctuations in Flagstaff. Like, oh, it just became too much. Wes is fine. He sleeps in, now we've got air conditioning, so it's a little bit easier, right? But, it was just like, okay, well, it was this degree outside today. This says from 68 to 72, but what if it's 73? Then it says we need to do this. Oh my God. I made myself crazy over that. And I think it was because our condo was so cold in our bedroom. His room was great temperature control wise, but the rest of the condo was absolutely horrible for HVAC. So yeah, so that's but again, this whole sleep topic is so, I don't know why it has to be so controversial. I mean, maybe just raising kids in general is controversial over the decisions that you make. I get a lot of junk thrown at me from people close to me for the way I feed Wes and the way Stephen and I have decided to feed him and what we're doing for school and stuff like that. But I think, just parenting in general just causes a lot of divisiveness unnecessarily when it's just like, okay, why don't we just all recognize that we're all doing the best that we can? We're all making the choices that we believe are the best choices for us and for our family. So like, everybody just chill. It's fine. What you do for your kid has no direct impact on my life.
I mean, as long as you're like, within reason. Like, don't hit your kid, please. Not in front of me. I don't want to see it.
Oh my gosh, Danielle, I don't think I told you about this. We were at the park like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. And this woman hit and screamed at her kid so badly that the kid fell down to the ground. And she was there with her friend. The mom was there with her friend, and the mom friend just like whatever went about it. And I was like, oh my God, you guys, if I ever lost my mind like that, call me out. Like, pull me aside, like smack me. That's not okay.
So sad.
And the poor little girl was just, we ended up leaving the park because the little girl was just losing it. The mother wanted nothing to do with the little girl. And I was just like, wow, this is awful.
That's so sad.
So yes, Lisa, you're right. Like, please don't hit your kid in front of me.
That's when it comes to sleep, whether you're a co-sleeper, you're against co-sleeping, put your baby in their own room the first day of life, like whatever it is that you do, like that's awesome that it works for you. But yeah. So, I didn't even know anything about co-sleeping. It just came on my Instagram and I'm like, what is that? And then somebody like, you can't sleep with your baby. And then they're like, you can sleep with your baby, like your baby doesn't need independence. So it's like you get both sides. And I'm like, can I just be somewhere in the middle? Like, I'm going to take a little bit from here, a little bit from here, and then just do what works best for me. So,
well, I think I did, evolve into somewhere in the middle, because in the beginning, like, Wes would take his first 2 naps of the day fine. But those sleep programs tell you to put them in their crib or put them in their bassinet for all their naps, right? But that 3rd nap of the day, I knew he wasn't going to sleep unless it was on me or in the stroller. And so there were days where we would snuggle up on the couch in his room and take a nap together, and I loved it. And I felt like I still got like some of that balance, right? Like, he was very independent from a young age, sleep-wise, but I still got like a couple months of those contact naps, that co-sleeping that I really enjoyed. And so I do think that there is that area that exists of the in the middle and the balance, but it doesn't matter if it's not working for you. You got to do.
I totally agree with that. So I was terrified of co-sleeping because our first pediatrician was like, do not co-sleep. Do not do it. And I was like terrified, right? And then I don't remember how old Hannah was. She was between 4 and 6 months. And we got stuck in Dallas, as you do if you fly through Dallas. And
why is that true, though? Because both times I've gone to Dallas, I've been stuck.
We've flown through Dallas so many times. And first of all, I hate that airport because it is so congested. It is so, the hallways are too small for how many people go through. Doesn't matter. We got a voucher for a hotel. We get to the hotel and they don't have any cribs. And we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to sleep with, how are we going to sleep with her? We've never slept with her. We're not supposed to sleep with her. This is so bad. I was freaking out. I didn't sleep for maybe more than 30 minutes. And I didn't want to leave just one of us in the bed with her because at that point she was rolling so much and I was afraid she was going to roll off the bed. So then we had to sandwich her between us and she's just all over the place. We're not sleeping. And I'm like, but then the next few times I've had to do it for whatever reasons, it's okay, she's going to be fine. She's going to be fine. But I get it. I was so afraid of SIDS. I was so afraid of rolling and suffocating her. It's just, you get there's a lot of fear in that first child. And I will tell you, having Aubrey has been a totally different experience than it was with Hannah, in that I've been able to enjoy things a little bit more, worry a lot less. And I worried so much with Hannah and she's doing great. And I tried not to let her see my worry. I don't want her to be a worrier like I am. I don't want her to get those traits. But one quick note, though, about having two of them, which is an interesting battle of their rooms are right next to each other and they share walls. Our house is, there's no other places to go. We have 3 bedrooms. That's it. So a lot of times when Aubrey would wake up, I wouldn't let her go back to sleep on her own because I was too afraid she would wake up Hannah. So then Aubrey, I'm waking Aubrey up when she's just trying to settle herself and I'm creating issues with her sleep because I'm protecting Hannah from waking up. And I finally was like, you know what? I just have to deal with it. I just have to let it go, right? Let Aubrey try and figure it out so that she becomes a good sleeper and she's not always a disrupted sleeper. So for a while, Hannah was fine and she would sleep through Aubrey crying and it was totally fine. And then, like I said, Hannah in February, it just all of a sudden it snapped and it went the other direction. And it's hit or miss still whether she'll wake up with Aubrey crying and whether she won't. So I don't know what the right solution is there, but based on the next pediatrician we had, she was like, let them do it. Just let the older kids figure it out. Let the older kids figure out how to sleep through that. Let them go because you're the one who suffers by getting up with her for 18 months or however long you keep coddling her in the middle of the night. You're going to suffer getting up with her. She's going to start suffering in her sleep abilities. And then, it's just not worth it. So that's been a challenge for me because I've been trying to let Aubrey, settle herself down. And sometimes it takes 30 seconds and sometimes it takes 15 minutes for her to figure out her spot. So that's been a little bit challenging. But like I said, Hannah's up 86 times in the middle of the night anyways. What's it matter if she wakes up 3 minutes earlier than she was going to wake up? So it's a challenge.
You reminded me of something waking or settling yourself. It's really random, but it does have to do with sleep. How long did it take y'all to realize what active sleep was as like that newborn stage and how I don't know how many times I was waking up Weston when he was actually just having that active sleep where they make noises and they're moving, and I didn't know that was a thing until Instagram. Thank you, Instagram.
Man,
Knows what I need. That's why I keep coming back.
I totally forgot about that stage, Danielle, completely.
Me too.
But Yeah, Weston. Look at me. I'm sleep deprived now, and I don't even know my kid's name. Weston would babble, but then he also got to this stage, and I think it was trying to do the math, probably 6 months, maybe 8 months, where he would also scream bloody murder for like a minute, just enough to wake me up and give me a heart attack, and I couldn't go back to sleep from it. But like top of his lungs, like someone was stabbing him and twisting. I don't even know what it was, but it was a thing. And then
I forgot about that, Leah. I'm glad you reminded me that Hannah did that too.
yeah.
Ugh.
Well, and that was the only thing that got me through it, was because when I told you about it, you were like, "Oh yeah, Hannah did it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What is this?"
Ugh.
Like,
Why do they do that?
I don't know, but man, I forgot about the active sleep stage, and I forgot about the blood curdling screams.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are both a thing. So, yeah, I learned a lot from Instagram too. Like, to be honest, like in those early days when I was up in the middle of the night pumping and feeding a couple times, I learned a lot from Instagram and spent a lot on Amazon. So, I think that I was pretty par for the course there, and hit all the stereotypes of a middle of the night breastfeeding mother. But there's a lot of information out there. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it totally indifferent. Just be mindful of what you take in, because it can be very overwhelming.
Say do your research too. Like do your own research on things. Don't take these like influencers' word for it. Don't take our word for it. Like you have to, put the effort in and see what's safe, what's not, what works for you, what doesn't.
I will say, like, and we've talked about this before, I got off of social media when Hannah was probably 2-3 months because I was suffering horribly. I mean, looking back now, I had postpartum depression. I didn't realize it and I didn't know, but social media really, really screwed with my head. And it would be like, oh my gosh, Hannah's supposed to be doing this at this point, according to Instagram, and she's not even close to that. And oh my gosh, is something wrong with my child? And oh, do I need to take her to the hospital? I was just a wreck. So I got off of social media, and I will say there are things that are so great about not being on there. And then there are things that are like, man, I really missed out on that. That probably would have helped us. That probably would have gotten us through that stage faster. That probably would have been like, oh, that's why that's happening, stuff like that. So I definitely think there's benefits and downfalls. And I also agree with you guys, do your research, but I think you guys are both really good at finding sites that you trust and believe in. Whereas I'm like so overwhelmed by information that I read too many things. And it's like, I'm going to call out Michelle's husband, Ryan, the other day because he got duped on Twitter by somebody he thought was Taylor Swift.
Oh no. He just thought Taylor Swift was in his DMs?
No, not talking to him. He just read a tweet and he thought it was like Taylor Swift. And you could tell when he sent the message, I was like, this is not Taylor Swift, but her name was Taylor Swaft. And we were like, we're never going to let him live that down, because it's like that. Those are the kinds of things, like I would read these articles to the end and then I'd be like, what is this site? And then it would be like, this is a fakebabysite.com, like stuff like I know your sources and know your trusted sources, I would say, because the internet is so overwhelming, right? Like find something that you trust and believe in and try to align with those people. Like if they write a book about sleep, but they don't write a book about eating, but they recommend books about eating, try and stick within those lines instead of where I am. And I'm like, I'm going to read 18 sites and they're all going to make me feel crazy. And then the next one's going to make me feel great. So, yeah.
Well, I think that was a good coverage of our experience with sleeping. And, we talked all about our kids sleeping. but how our kids do and do not sleep has a direct impact on how we do or do not sleep and can cause severe sleep deprivation. And so my chat GPT question of the week is, what's the most ridiculous thing you've done while sleep deprived from caring for your baby?
I'll go first. I don't know. I woke up and Weston he was probably 6, 7 months. So he just recently like went to his crib, and I would like stare at my monitor. I need the Nanit because I'm sure you can see a lot better. Mine's like this pixel. Mine's the one that doesn't hook to Wi-Fi or anything. And so I'm like zooming in as much as I can. I'm like, is he breathing? He doesn't look like he's breathing. So I walked in there, and normally when I walk into his room, he like kind of stirs. He didn't move. I put my hand on him. He didn't move. I didn't give myself enough time to see if he was breathing. I was like, oh, he feels stiff, but he was warm. But I like ripped him out of bed, ran into the bedroom, and I'm like, Ryan, he's not breathing. He's not breathing. And I like brought him out. And then Weston's looking at me and Ryan's looking at me. They're both giving me the same look. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I was like crying. And I laid Weston back down, and surprisingly, he went back to sleep after that dramatic event. But yeah, so I really thought he stopped breathing, and I don't know. I was
see you like carrying him out of his room with him like looking at you, being like, Mom, what's wrong? I was sleeping.
I know, I had him here, and when I brought him, he was like, what the heck? Oh, Ryan rolled right back over and went to sleep, and I was so mad. I didn't go back to sleep after that. But yeah,
that's pretty good, Danielle. At least you got one to top that.
Mine will still be the Brandon story of when we got the medication for Aubrey, and he was like, you need to get 5 milliliters out, and you put it on her head, and I was like, wait a second, how does this work? He's like, just get a dropper and just sprinkle it all over her head. And I read the instructions, it was like, apply or give to them orally, and I was like, can you imagine? It's like if you had like Tylenol that's all sticky and you put it in her hair.
That will forever be one of my favorite stories. I think I called Brandon out on that the time after you told us about that. And the next time I saw him, I was like, yo, dude, you were going to apply your baby's medicine to her head? You think that's how that works? I mean, I know the skin's the largest organ of our body, but like, I don't think so. Yeah.
How about you, Leah?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't remember things when I'm tired. Like I just black out. So I did a lot of stupid things when I was postpartum. But I was like scrolling through, and ironically, for our listeners, that chat GPT question was live. I just asked it. I did not come up with it on my own. But ironically, yesterday I was like scrolling through my old pictures, and there was one of, we have a Keurig. And so you put the pod in the little machine, and then you push it down, and then it makes your coffee. Well, I had a picture on my phone of me, and I had put the pod just directly in my coffee cup, expecting there to be coffee without actually making coffee. I had a lot of coffee incidents. There was another one where I made coffee. I was using a French press that morning, and I didn't put the coffee grinds in it, so I just made hot water, essentially. Yeah. And then like putting things in the fridge that don't belong in the fridge, and losing everything. And so I can't remember anything nearly as funny as your guys's. I'm sure that there were some crazy things. Steven has a picture of me falling asleep texting.
Yep.
But
been there.
Yeah, I literally just like black out when I'm tired. I don't remember anything. I think maybe that stems from my sleep issues as a child, of like sleepwalking and sleep talking. Like I used to be a very active child in my sleep, so maybe that I can still do that as an adult. So yeah, but well, I think that concludes our episode on sleep. Hopefully you got some good takeaways from us. Remember that this is your journey with your baby, and like Lisa said, what works for one kid may not work for the next. So temper your expectations, be kind to yourself, be kind to your little ones, and we will see you next week.
And that wraps up another episode of Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood. Thank you again so much for listening to us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider giving us 5 stars so other mothers out there like you can find us and listen. If you would like, you could follow us on any of our socials at Mom Jeans the podcast. If you have questions, would like to send us your birth story, or give us suggestions or things that you would like to hear, please email us at hello@momjeansthepodcast.com. See you next week.